The desperate plea. The Atacama Desert stretched endlessly under the star-filled sky, its silence broken only by the gentle hum of machinery from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Dr. Marcus Webb adjusted his coffee cup and settled into his chair for another long night of listening to the cosmos. For 15 years he had dedicated his life to searching for signals from beyond Earth, hoping to answer the question that had haunted humanity since they first looked up at the stars. Are we alone? The massive radio telescopes surrounding the facility pointed toward different sections of the galaxy, their metal surfaces gleaming silver in the moonlight. Each dish was a technological marvel, capable of detecting the faintest whispers from civilizations light years away. Tonight, like every night for the past decade, they listened to the endless static of space. Dr. Webb was reviewing data from the previous week when his assistant, Dr. Maria Santos, burst through the control room door. Her face was flushed with excitement, and her hands trembled as she held up a tablet displaying wave patterns unlike anything they had ever recorded. "Marcus, you need to see this immediately," she said, her voice barely containing her excitement. "We've been receiving a signal from the Kepler 442 system for the past 3 hours. It's not natural background radiation or pulsar emissions. This is artificial, deliberate, and it's incredibly complex." Webb set down his coffee and moved to the main console where multiple screens displayed the incoming transmission. The signal appeared as a series of mathematical sequences, but underneath the numbers was something that made his heart race. There was a pattern, a structure that suggested intelligence behind the transmission. "How strong is the signal?" Webb asked, his scientific training keeping his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they might be witnessing. "Stronger than anything we've ever detected," Maria replied. "Whoever sent this has technology far beyond our current capabilities. They're broadcasting with enough power to reach across 1,200 light-years of space with crystal clarity." Webb studied the data streaming across the monitors. The signal contained multiple layers of information, including what appeared to be mathematical proofs, star charts, and technical specifications for devices he couldn't immediately identify. But there was something else embedded in the transmission, something that made his blood run cold. "Maria, run this through the translation protocols," he ordered. "And call the entire team, all of them. This isn't a drill." Within 2 hours, the control room was filled with Earth's leading experts in xenolinguistics, quantum physics, and computer science. Dr. James Harrison, the world's foremost expert in theoretical alien communication, worked alongside Dr. Lisa Park, whose algorithms had revolutionized how humanity searched for extraterrestrial intelligence. "The mathematical sequences are serving as a universal translator," Dr. Harrison explained to the assembled team. "They're using prime numbers and geometric constants to establish a baseline for communication. It's brilliant, actually. Any technological civilization would recognize these patterns." Dr. Park looked up from her computer, her face pale. "I've been analyzing the underlying structure of the message. There are sections that repeat with increasing urgency. The pattern suggests this isn't just a greeting or scientific exchange. This is a distress call." Webb felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. If Dr. Park was correct, they weren't just witnessing first contact with an alien civilization. They were receiving a cry for help from beings who might be facing extinction. "How long until we have a full translation?" Webb asked. "Give me 6 more hours," Harrison replied. "The language is complex, but the mathematical framework is helping us understand the syntax and grammar. We should be able to decode the complete message by dawn." As the night wore on, the team worked with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The discovery of alien intelligence was what they had all dreamed of their entire careers, but the urgency in the signal suggested that celebration would have to wait. Every few minutes, new sections of the transmission were decoded, and the picture that emerged was both fascinating and terrifying. The signal came from a species calling themselves the Zephyrians, inhabitants of the 4th planet in the Kepler 442 system. Their world had been peaceful for millennia, dedicated to science, art, and the exploration of the cosmos. But 3 months ago, their instruments had detected an approaching fleet of ships from a species known as the Nexari. Dr. Harrison's voice shook as he read the translated text aloud. The Nexari are destroyers of worlds. They have conquered 47 civilizations across this sector of the galaxy. They do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They arrive, they destroy, and they consume everything of value before moving on to their next target. The Zephyrians had tried to defend themselves, but their technology was no match for the Nexari war machines. Their cities were burning, their population was being systematically exterminated, and their last hope was to send a desperate plea into space, hoping that somewhere among the stars, another civilization might hear their cry and come to their aid. "Why are they contacting us?" Dr. Santos asked. "How do they even know we exist?" Dr. Park highlighted a section of the transmission on her screen. "They've been monitoring our radio signals for decades. They know we're a young technological civilization, but they also know we're rapidly advancing. More importantly, they believe we might be the only species within range of their signal who hasn't already been conquered by the Nexari." Webb stared at the star charts included in the message. The Zephyrians had provided detailed technical specifications for their weapons, their ships, and even their defensive systems. It was as if they were giving humanity a crash course in advanced technology, hoping that armed with this knowledge, Earth might somehow find a way to help. "This is incredible," Dr. Harrison said, studying the technical data. "They're sharing scientific knowledge that could advance human technology by centuries, faster than light travel, energy weapons, defensive shields. It's all here." But Webb noticed something else in the transmission that made his stomach turn. The Zephyrians had included tactical information about the Nexari fleet, including their projected path through the galaxy after finishing their conquest of Kepler 442. The Nexari were heading directly toward Earth's sector of space. "How long before the Nexari reach the Zephyrian homeworld?" Webb asked. Dr. Park calculated quickly. "Based on the fleet movements described in the message, they'll arrive in approximately 2 weeks. The Zephyrians' defenses are failing. They estimate they have days, maybe hours, before their civilization is completely destroyed." The control room fell silent as the magnitude of the situation became clear. Somewhere in the galaxy, an entire species was facing extinction, and they had reached out to humanity as their last hope. But Earth's most advanced spacecraft would take decades to reach the Kepler 442 system, even with conventional propulsion. "We need to contact the Global Defense Council immediately," Webb said. "This is beyond the scope of our facility. If we're going to help the Zephyrians, it will require a coordinated effort from every nation on Earth." Dr. Santos looked at the technical specifications still streaming across the monitors. "Marcus, what if we could build ships using their technology? The Zephyrians have provided blueprints for faster-than-light engines. If we could construct vessels based on their designs." "That's impossible," Dr. Harrison interrupted. "The materials alone would require industrial capacity we don't possess. We're talking about technology that's centuries ahead of our current capabilities." But Webb was studying the technical data with growing excitement. The Zephyrians hadn't just sent abstract theories. They had provided detailed construction manuals, material specifications, and even suggestions for how primitive civilizations might adapt the technology using available resources. "They've thought of everything," Webb said quietly. "They know we're not as advanced as they are, so they've included modifications and alternatives. They're not just asking for help. They're trying to give us the tools to help them." Within hours, the discovery was reported to the highest levels of Earth's governments. The signal from Kepler 442 was verified by radio telescopes around the world, and teams of scientists began analyzing the technical data provided by the Zephyrians. The debate that followed was intense and immediate. Some argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth from the eventual Nexari threat, rather than attempting a rescue mission across interstellar space. Others insisted that the moral imperative to help an endangered species outweighed the risks. Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's Space Defense Forces, studied the Zephyrian data with professional interest. "The technology they're sharing could revolutionize human spaceflight," she told the Emergency Council session. "But more importantly, if we don't act, we're condemning an entire civilization to extinction." Dr. Webb testified before the council, explaining what they had learned from the transmission. The Zephyrians have been peaceful for thousands of years. They've never conquered another world or destroyed another species. They've spent their civilization's energy on art, science, and exploration. They don't deserve to die simply because they can't defend themselves against monsters. The debate continued for hours, but as more technical data was decoded, the potential for human involvement became clearer. The Zephyrians had included not just ship designs but tactical information about Nixari weaknesses, communication protocols, and detailed star charts showing the fastest route to their system. "It's as if they're not just asking for help, Admiral," Chen observed. "They're trying to give us everything we need to succeed." As dawn broke over the Atacama Desert, Dr. Webb stood on the observation deck of the facility, looking up at the stars that no longer seemed distant and cold. Somewhere among those points of light, an alien civilization was making its last stand against extinction, and they had reached out to humanity with hope and trust. The decision came at noon. In an unprecedented display of unity, Earth's governments agreed to attempt what many considered impossible. Humanity would answer the call for help. They would build ships using alien technology, travel faster than light for the first time in human history, and journey to Kepler 442 to stand with the Zephyrians against the Nixari. Dr. Webb watched as the first construction teams arrived at the facility, preparing to transform the radio telescope complex into a shipyard. The massive dishes that had spent decades listening to space would now help build vessels capable of traveling between the stars. The Zephyrians had sent a desperate plea into the darkness, hoping someone would hear their cry for help. They had chosen to trust humanity with their most advanced technology, betting their civilization's survival on the hope that Earth would not abandon them in their darkest hour. As Webb prepared to leave his post to join the construction effort, he took one last look at the signal still streaming from space. The Zephyrians were still broadcasting, still hoping, still fighting for survival. And now, for the first time in their desperate struggle, they were no longer alone. Humanity had heard their call, and humanity was coming. Earth's answer, the transformation of Earth began within hours of the decision to help the Zephyrians. What had started as a single radio telescope facility in Chile became the center of the largest construction project in human history. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the newly built command center, watching as massive industrial platforms rose from the desert floor, their frameworks reaching toward the stars like metal prayers. "Status report," Chen requested from her chief engineer, Commander David Park. "Incredible progress, Captain," Park replied, consulting his tablet. "We have 12 shipyards operational, with construction crews working around the clock. The Zephyrian technology is more adaptable than we hoped. We're successfully building faster-than-light engines using modified nuclear reactors and rare Earth elements." Chen nodded, but her mind was focused on the countdown timer displayed on the main screen. 14 days until the Nixari fleet reached the Zephyrian homeworld. 14 days to build a fleet, travel 1,200 light-years, and somehow defeat an enemy that had conquered dozens of civilizations. The scale of the project was staggering. Factories across Earth had been converted to produce components for the ships. The Zephyrian blueprints had been distributed to every major industrial nation, and humanity's greatest minds worked together to solve problems that had seemed impossible just days before. Dr. Lisa Park, now serving as the Chief Technology Officer for the rescue mission, approached Chen with a mixture of excitement and concern on her face. "Captain, we've made a breakthrough with the weapon systems. The Zephyrians included detailed specifications for plasma cannons, but we've made some modifications." "What kind of modifications?" Chen asked. "Human ones," Park replied with a smile. "The Zephyrian weapons are designed for precise, controlled energy discharge. They're built by a peaceful civilization that values efficiency over destruction. We've enhanced them." Chen followed Park to a testing facility where engineers were calibrating humanity's first alien-designed weapon system. The plasma cannon looked similar to the Zephyrian specifications, but with additional components that gave it an aggressive, purposeful appearance. "The Zephyrians built these weapons to disable enemy ships," Park explained. "We've modified them to completely destroy targets. Our power output is 30% higher than the original design, and we've added rapid-fire capabilities. The weapon test was both beautiful and terrifying. The plasma beam lit up the desert sky with brilliant energy, striking a target made of the same materials the Nexari used for their ship armor. The target didn't just suffer damage, it was completely vaporized. The Nexari have been conquering peaceful civilizations for centuries, Chen said quietly. They've never faced weapons designed by a species that understands war. Meanwhile, in the shipyards, the first human vessels were taking shape. The ships were unlike anything humanity had built before, combining Zephyrian technology with human engineering principles. Where the Zephyrian designs emphasized elegance and efficiency, the human modifications focused on durability and firepower. Commander Park supervised the construction of the flagship, a vessel that would carry Chen and her crew on humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. The ship was beautiful in its own way, with sleek lines and advanced propulsion systems, but it was clearly built for battle. The faster-than-light engines are ready for testing, Park reported. Based on the Zephyrian calculations, we can reach Kepler 442 in approximately 8 days. That gives us 3 days to assess the situation and prepare for combat. Chen studied the ship's specifications. The vessel was armed with 6 plasma cannons, protected by energy shields, and equipped with advanced sensors based on Zephyrian technology. Most importantly, it carried a crew of humanity's best pilots, engineers, and tacticians. How many ships will be ready for the mission? Chen asked. 7, Park replied. It's not as many as we hoped, but each ship is more powerful than anything the Nexari have faced before. As the days passed, the pace of construction intensified. The Zephyrians continued to broadcast updates on their situation, and the news was increasingly desperate. The Nexari had begun their assault on the outer colonies, and Zephyrian defenses were failing rapidly. Dr. Webb, now serving as the mission's communication officer, worked to maintain contact with the alien allies humanity had never met. The Zephyrians are amazed by our progress, he reported during a briefing. They didn't expect any species to respond to their call for help, let alone build a rescue fleet in less than 2 weeks. What else are they telling us? Chen asked. They're providing tactical information about the Nexari forces, Webb replied. 12 heavy cruisers armed with antimatter weapons and protected by energy shields. The Nexari rely on overwhelming firepower and intimidation tactics. Chen studied the enemy fleet composition. 12 ships against 7 didn't seem like favorable odds, but the Zephyrians had provided crucial intelligence about Nexari weaknesses. The conquerors had grown complacent after centuries of easy victories, and their tactics were predictable. The Nexari expect their enemies to panic and scatter, Chen said to her senior officers. They've never faced a coordinated defense or opponents who fought back intelligently. Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, the mission's tactical officer, added, We also have the element of surprise. The Nexari don't know we exist, and they certainly don't expect another species to intervene in their conquest. The day of departure arrived with a mixture of excitement and solemnity. The 7 ships of Earth's first interstellar fleet prepared for launch, their crews knowing they were about to attempt something that had never been done before. They were going to travel faster than light, enter an alien war, and try to save a civilization they had never met. Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the stars that would soon be more than points of light. Around her, the crew performed final system checks with the precision of professionals who understood the magnitude of their mission. All ships report, ready for departure, Santos announced. Engage faster than light engines, Chen ordered. The sensation was unlike anything any human had experienced before. The stars seemed to stretch and flow around the ships as they entered hyperspace, traveling at speeds that Einstein had said were impossible. The Zephyrian technology worked flawlessly, carrying humanity toward their first interstellar battle. The journey to Kepler 442 took 8 days, during which the crews studied Nexari tactical data and practiced combat maneuvers. When they finally arrived at the alien system, the sight that greeted them was both heartbreaking and inspiring. The Zephyrian homeworld was a beautiful blue-green planet surrounded by the burning wreckage of orbital defense platforms. The Nexari fleet hung in space like dark predators, their ships launching bombardment after bombardment at the planet's surface. But the Zephyrians were still fighting, still broadcasting their defiance even as their world burned. "Incoming transmission from the planet," Webb announced. The main screen filled with the image of a Zephyrian, tall, elegant, with large eyes that held both intelligence and desperate hope. The aliens spoke in their own language, but the translation systems provided subtitles. "We are Zephyrian Defense Commander Kelthara. We did not expect anyone to answer our call for help. Your arrival gives us hope that our sacrifice will not be in vain." Chen activated the communication system. "Commander Kelthara, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. We received your distress call, and we're here to help." The Zephyrian's expression showed amazement and gratitude. "Earth humans, we studied your radio transmissions. Your species is young but shows great promise. That you would travel across the galaxy to help strangers, it is beyond our understanding." "It's not beyond ours," Chen replied. "No species should face extinction alone." The tactical situation was clear. The Nexari fleet had positioned themselves around the planet, using their superior firepower to break down the remaining Zephyrian defenses. They were so confident in their victory that they weren't even maintaining proper formation. "Santos, give me a battle plan," Chen ordered. "The Nexari are spread out probably to maximize bombardment coverage," Santos replied. "If we can coordinate with the remaining Zephyrian ships, we can catch them in a crossfire." The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment humanity announced its presence to the galaxy. The Earth fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already charging as they approached the Nexari ships. The enemy's response was predictable. They turned their weapons on the newcomers, expecting to easily destroy another primitive species. But the first exchange of fire shattered their assumptions. The human ships moved with tactics the Nexari had never encountered. Instead of meeting their enemies head-on, they used hit-and-run attacks targeting specific systems and retreating before the Nexari could respond effectively. The modified plasma cannons tore through enemy shields with devastating efficiency. "Target their command ship," Chen ordered as her vessel rolled to avoid incoming fire. "If we can disrupt their coordination, the rest of the fleet will struggle to adapt." The flagship's weapons locked onto the largest Nexari vessel, and the concentrated fire from all 7 human ships struck simultaneously. The enemy command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking with it the Nexari's ability to coordinate their attack. The remaining Zephyrian defenders rallied, their ships joining the battle with renewed hope. The combined human Zephyrian fleet moved through the enemy formation like a surgical instrument, targeting specific ships and systems with precision the Nexari couldn't match. "The Nexari are retreating," Santos reported with barely contained excitement. Chen watched as the surviving enemy ships fled the system, their formations broken and their confidence shattered. For the first time in centuries, a Nexari conquest had failed. They had met a species that fought back with intelligence, courage, and unity. In the aftermath of the battle, Chen's ship received a priority transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. Commander Kelthara appeared on screen, tears streaming down their face. "Captain Chen, your species has saved our civilization. We will never forget this act of kindness from strangers who became our greatest allies." But Chen was already thinking about the implications of their victory. The Nexari would regroup, and other species throughout the galaxy were still under threat. The battle at Kepler 442 was just the beginning. "Commander Kelthara, this is only the start," Chen said. "The Nexari have conquered dozens of worlds. With our combined technology and knowledge, we can free those worlds and put an end to their reign of terror." The Zephyrian's expression shifted from gratitude to determination. "You speak of a galactic war against oppression. I speak of justice," Chen replied. "And I speak of what happens when peaceful species decide they've had enough of bullies." As the human fleet prepared for the journey home, carrying Zephyrian refugees and advanced technology, Chen looked out at the stars with new understanding. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, they had purpose, and they had proven that sometimes the young species on the galactic stage could teach the older ones a thing or two about courage. The Zephyrians had sent a desperate signal for help, and humanity had answered. But in saving another species, humans had discovered something profound about themselves. They were not just explorers or scientists or dreamers. When innocent beings faced extinction, humans were warriors, protectors, and the kind of species that traveled across the galaxy to stand between evil and its victims. The galaxy would never be the same.